Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wired Thinker. I am TGL as usual. Uh, the race for world power is on. It is definitely on. And the United States of America, that has occupied the tip of an iceberg for quite some times now, is at the brink of losing out to other world powers. Why? Not because of their military might. They are still the mightiest militarily. I hope so. I hope so. Yes. Not because of the economy. They still have the biggest economy in the world right now. But because of an ever increasing moral decay. The morality of the society in the United States of America and some Western powers has dropped so significantly that sometimes these days the United States even do not have the moral authority to address dignified people around the globe. And this has been a challenge, a very serious challenge them. And that is the single most threat to their position in the hierarchy of world powers. Now, in desperate attempt to save their face from the shame, United States and other Western powers have devoted quite large sums of money in an attempt to impose it on the other part of the world, and especially on the continent of Africa, so that they create uh, what is what it will be seen as a new normal. So that when this rotten culture is in every other part of the world, then it is a new normal, and that is in desperate attempt to save its face and maintain its position at the tip of that iceberg. Recently, Uganda was in a lamplight in an attempt to fend its society off from the impeding rotten cultures being imposed onto them in guises of human rights. Uganda has faced a backlash, a lot of condemnations from the Western media, from the Western worlds. Of course, they have also received a plethora of praises from the different African nations and the Arab worlds. So the United States of America wants to create a situation of a new normal to save their face from the shame of a morally decayed nation, a morally decayed society. So they want to impose these cultures onto the African continent, but they want to do this in guises of human rights. It is incumbent upon this that this video seek to revisit what human right is. Ladies and gentlemen, what is human right? Who deserves human rights? What are the limitations to the enjoyment of human rights? And what is the boundaries? Is it boundless? So this video seeks to revisit what we call human rights. And I would implore you to comment, give your comments in the comment sections. I want to see what is human right. Ladies and gentlemen, according to my own view and analysis, uh, human right is a privilege that one is accorded to by virtue of being human, exhibiting humanity, and observing human continuity. As long as you are a human, you exhibit humanity and you're observing human continuity, then you are accorded a privilege that is called a human right. Now, what are the limitations, ladies and gentlemen? What are the limitations of human rights? When is human right forfeited? When is human right forfeited? The first limitation is that your human right is going to be forfeited when the privilege you want to enjoy or you crave to enjoy reverses human nature and threatens human continuity. You forfeit your right. If what you want to enjoy, the privilege that you crave or you seek to enjoy, attempts to reverse human nature and pose a significant threat on human continuity, then you forfeit. That's one limitation. The second is what? When the privilege that you crave for, the privilege that you seek to enjoy, what you call the human rights, when it contradicts or conflicts or attempts to override the existing societal norms, customs, values, and laws, then you cease to enjoy that privilege. That human right immediately ceases. So as long as you want to contradict, to conflict, or attempt to override existing societal norms, customs, values, and laws, then you will be deprived of human rights. So the human right is not an island. It has to be enjoyed in concert with other conditions. Then what are the boundaries of human rights? Here I want to look at liberals versus conservatives. We are living in a world where different societies have adopted different ideologies. We have the liberals and the conservatives. The liberals, a liberal society, here one is at liberty to venture into the unknowns without too much questions on their actions. And that's a liberal society. The Western world, including the United States of America, are more of a liberal society. You venture into anything you feel like without much questions. You venture into a new culture without much questions. And then, as long as you're enjoying it, they call it human right. That's a liberal society. While a conservative society operates on a preset principles and guidelines and laws, you don't need to invent a wheel in a conservative society. There's no inventing wheel. Whereas most of the Western societies are liberal societies, Africans are typical conservative societies where the norms, the values, the customs, and the cultures are of very paramount importance and they're very strict onto it. Now, none of these societies claims to be better than the other. None of them claims to be better than the other. But then when it comes to the human right context, what is human right in a liberal society may not necessarily be a right in a conservative society. And therefore, an attempt to impose what is a human right in a liberal society, but it is not a right in a conservative society, is bound to cause conflict of interest. And that is what is going to cause a backlash like what we saw with Uganda, because we are imposing what is not a right in our jurisdiction. Uh, until the liberal societies and the conservative societies comes to appreciate that they have some differences that cannot be compromised, that some rights in the liberal societies do not apply in a conservative society, and vice versa, then there will be no tension. There will be no backlash. There will be no condemnations. So we also appreciate that there are some basic human rights that overlaps within these two societies. It applies both in the liberal society and also in the conservative society. And those are the rights that should be identified, that should be promoted universally. A right that overlaps the societies is a right that has to be promoted. But the one that only applies to liberals should never be imposed on the conservativist, and the one that only applies to conservativists, to conservative society, has not to be imposed on the liberals for the world to continue efficiently. So, what the United States of America and other Western allies are trying to do by using dollar diplomacy to impose a rotten culture on the conservative culture that do not want, and that has demonstrated that they do not want, by putting a law of their own that fends its society from that impeding rotten culture. I implore all Ugandans to rise up in their numbers and defend the identity of their society, to defend the ideology of their societies, to say no to cultures that do not fit into ours. We are not going to attempt to accept a square peg in a round hole because they do not fit. It has a lot of implications on our societies. It is going to increase our dependency. It is going to have a lot of negative consequences, which we as Ugandans or as Africans are not prepared to carry. The consequences we are not ready to bear. And I implore us to defend our ideologies, our identity with the last drop of our blood. So human rights, wherever, as long as you try to defend human rights, you need to understand this. What is it? Who deserves it? What are the limitations and the jurisdiction, the geopolitical boundaries that exist? Human right is not cutting across everywhere, anytime, anyway, the way some people think. So the US, if you continue with this kind of behavior, if you do not seek a better way of handling your own morality in your backyard, then you are bound to lose world powers to those who rightfully deserves it. I rest my case. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to see what you think in the comment sections on our wide thinker. Thank you very much.